Okay, folks, welcome to another episode of Countercurrents, and I have coerced my friend, colleague, Andrei Martyanov, the esteemed author and military analyst par excellence. Yeah, you're pretty good. So,
Okay, thank you. No, I'm okay.
so let's, I was just, I haven't had a chance to read it. We're recording
Mhm.
this on December 5th. And by the way, if you're watching, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps build the channel. We are now finally at about 61,000 subscribers, which is, not bad. It's not
You're
great.
doing better than me.
It, but people like you better than me. Okay, so,
Doesn't matter.
um, so you've had a chance to read the new U.S.
I
national.
browsed it. It's just kind of like, diagonally,
Yeah, yeah.
essentially.
So, what was your impression?
My impression is very simple about it. It's one of those documents which is for everything good against everything bad. So yeah, there are a number of sensible notions, obviously. And let me put it this way. I just made the video. It's going to be after we're done. It's going to come up and precisely with the focus and, on that and emphasis on this document.
Okay, stop right
Uh,
there. Tell people where to go see the video.
oh,
S-
no, it's
Yeah,
on my
smooth.
channel.
Yeah,
It's
but
Smoothie X12. Yeah,
Smoothie X12 at
yeah. YouTube.
yeah.
YouTube.
Okay.
And obviously it's going to be copied on my blog, and point is that it's for everything good against everything bad. One of those wishy-washy things, which is I liked actually that they pointed out this fact, which is good, that Europe, number of the countries from the NATO may not be very soon, within a couple of decades, European minority actually there. And we know this country. I can tell you that France is the UK, obviously, and so we'll see what happens with Germany. Obviously, there are some delusional things about that. Oh yeah, hard advantage. Each country has hard advantage over Russia. No, it doesn't. Even the whole NATO doesn't have it, but okay, that's fine. And then, of course, they want to restore a strategic balance between United States and Russia. Well, it's good. Nobody says that it's not good. The problem is, as always, what is behind those
Yeah,
words?
yeah.
What is behind those sentences, so to speak. And what can I say? I will read it in detail more, but a point is, I already recognize the Trumpist document in it, and I quoted my acquaintance Alexander Rogers, who correctly stated, and it's in my book, latest book, uh, that they are good at basically creating their business plans. This is not a strategy. It's a wishy-washy things. And the question is, how do you approach it? You have to have resources to do something about it. And you have to match those resources to those desires. And the question is now that, well, whatever they say about Europe, of course, United States talks about Europe, the strategy talks about Europe. I will need to study, obviously, in more detail, but Europe is not salvageable anymore.
Yeah,
That's the thing
yeah.
which don't understand. And this is the thing which I just now, before we came up, here, I read the news. I don't know. I haven't confirmed them yet, but that Macron asked Trump to appoint Macron to be the main negotiator. It's like, I mean, that's everything you need to know. Their
Yeah.
pathetic civilization, which killed itself. Nobody, Russians were supporting Europe, essentially for the last, many 30 years. And it's over for Europe, and nothing could be done about it.
I'm gonna try to do a piece in the next day or two. I don't know if you've seen these videos. I'm not sure if they're AI generated or if they're real. They look real, but it always features a Chihuahua, and it's either
Yeah, I know what it's like.
a Great Dane or
Yep,
a Rottweiler. Now I've got
yep.
two Rottweilers, so I love the Rottweiler
Rottweilers
ones.
with chicken is amazing. I love it.
Or the one where he picks the
That
Chihuahua
book
up and
grabs that
flips it
chihuahua
into
and
the
puts
swimming
it in the.
pool. Yeah.
It's
And
unbelievable.
and I want to put up like five of those and then have the readers vote. which one best represents Europe? Because Europe's all the Chihuahua in every single one. It's just which is the most annoying Chihuahua.
All right, folks, hold on just a second. We've got something important to share with you. First off, a big thank you for all your incredible support. Our team's been putting in the hours, really working hard to bring you insightful guests, new and improved formats, solid, high-quality analysis every week. Our next goal, hitting that 100,000 subscriber mark and getting that silver button. Let's make it happen together. Every like, comment, share, and subscription truly helps us grow and keep improving. All right then, let's get back to the video.
Yeah, that's
where we're at. Because I was talking to Alistair Crook just a little bit ago. He's back from a trip to China, and just commenting on, with respect to Europe, who needs them anymore? I mean, what do they have? They have nothing the United States needs. They certainly have nothing the Russia needs, and yet they think they're terribly relevant. And it's like nobody's told them,
yeah,
you're useless.
Yeah. I put up this. You can look it up on my blog, but it's gonna be in the video in this time. Mr. Eisner, who was on some Jewish, pro-Israeli thing, and he talks about that. Hey, you losers! It comes down to this: that hey, losers who live in New York in declining empire. Go back to Israel, because Israel is a part, for some reason he thinks that Israel is a part of this gigantic Eurasian, movement, so to speak, in terms of the economic development. But obviously he is correct that United States is declining, but it's nowhere near. United States has resources. United States has power. It's still superpower. Europe is just, it's literally, as you correctly stated, like this Rottweiler eating the chicken, and then this thing just comes, he grabs it by the head and puts it into the box. That's exactly what happens. And so they do not understand now that everything is lost because they wanted it. And if this news about Macron begging Trump, Macron cannot, they pretend that they decide something. They are nobodies. And but I doubt it. Trump needs, Russia gave United States off-ramp again. It's always about off-ramp. And Trump fails time after time to take the off-ramp. Although the more he does it, the more he fails to take this off-ramp. It's already his war, anyhow. He tried to be the arbitrage. He tried to be the United States was a co-belligerent, still is, but not to the level it was in the beginning. So he has to live with this reality, So he has and Putin is very clear about that. Very many people in Russia understand. You've been there, you understand what is going on. But again, Russia is going to talk to the United States. People do not understand that, because it's kind of superpower courtesy, it's superpower paradigm, because superpowers live in a different universe. Europe is not even there. It's not even on the horizon. And so now we have this gigantic play with India. And we have to wait and see until the content of all those documents signed there on economic, military, on cause of the things. But if to believe Bloomberg, which of course it's Bloomberg, okay, they lie.
Right.
They said that there will be the new lease on nuclear powered submarine. It happened twice before, so it's nothing unusual. The question is, if it happens again, and it's $2 billion 10-year contract, apart from the other, obviously S-400s and Su-57, then India will get their hands on the most likely the first hull of the Severodvinsk class, Yasin class submarine. That is just single sub of its technology. I mean, this is just top of the line, submarine in the world. And so that changes a lot in the balance of power in the Indian Ocean. It changes the dynamics with this still delusional AUKUS, whatever they try to, involve Australia into this. And obviously it's also interesting in relation to China. But judging by outcome of Putin and Modi, looks good.
I mean, if let's say if the United States even understood the word strategy, let's say your objective is we want to be the dominant power in the Asia Pacific region.
Impossible, obviously.
But here's our strategy. We're going to insult and threaten India and China, and threaten China with war, and that way that'll make them more willing to work with us.
Yeah, that's it always was the same.
And you go, I don't think that's how you build relationships. And
Well,
that's,
yeah,
yeah,
it's what is most important, how the diplomacy works. Russians know sensitive. Putin spoke about it on press today. But look at this. Putin flies to India. Wang Yi immediately flies to Moscow, foreign minister of China, and meets Lavrov.
yeah,
So it's kind of in parallel. It's basically assurance of China that no, nothing against you at all.
right.
It's just that here is how we build it. But many people do not understand, and that is what is. I read today that Chinese now deployed up to 70 ships and Coast Guard vessels, also ships, in the South China Sea. Basically, it's their largest deployment, of the
Right.
naval power in there. So to demonstrate that, hey, we are here, we like, that's what China does now. And again, we don't know all details. Obviously, much of it is under wraps. We know it's very high level of the military technological cooperation between Russia and China. I know it's extremely high. So what is going on? Well, what is going on? What I was writing about for the 10 years, the Eurasia begins to build their fortress. But again, it can afford to build a fortress because it's the most important part of the world,
Yeah.
I mean, first, even after the Americas, both South and, North and South. And so it's the fortress. It's going to be, as it's happening, those S-400s, now India talks S-500s,
Right.
new naval and new aircraft deployments and development of the things, and it's just the way it is. And some people stated yesterday, I believe, it's kind of it's so sad to see that only smart people in Europe, Slovakia and Hungary, are just separated from what essentially their bloc, which they're the only way for them to survive will be to be in BRICS and maybe in some form of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But obviously, that NATO has to essentially dissolve the euro. It's already dead man walking. And so I agree with Doug McGregor when he stated that, Trump has to say to the Europeans, to NATO, sit down and shut up, so because you're done, it's over.
Well, I used I asked Alistair Crook, I used this analogy, and he laughed, so I knew it was an apt analogy. But I said, Russia, in trying to deal with the West, is a lot like a woman who's divorced her husband because he was a serial rapist. And now the serial rapist wants to come back and say, yeah, can't we get back together? And she already knows what he is. And it's like, no, we're not getting into that relationship, which is, I got to, my last trip to Moscow, I got to spend some time with Sergei Karaganov. And, he's been a leading, he's a very intelligent, astute, refined gentleman and very soft-spoken. But he's also been the leading voice in saying, hey, our future lies in the East, not in the West. And I didn't realize until talking to Glenn Deason that Glenn had actually worked for
I know,
Sergei.
High School of Economics,
Yeah. And so when I was there, both Alistair and I were invited to the Higher School of Economics, and we had quite a panel. I mean, there was one of Gerasimov's deputies was there, and so it was a pretty impressive group. But the West failure to understand the Russian mindset, and let me offer you what I've seen, and then you can correct me or expand upon it. And there's a joke out of about two Hollywood agents that I think embodies the American attitude. And these two Hollywood agents are sitting in this hotel in Beverly Hills, and they see this beautiful starlet walk by, And one looks at the other and goes, I'd like to screw her. And the other one says, out of what? So it's more like when you see something that's beautiful or attractive,
Yeah.
you want to figure out how you can take from it, how you can extract.
Yeah.
Whereas Alexander Kazakov, he was pretty emphatic on this, and I think he was right. He said, look, you Americans approach things basically as a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
And actually, not just Kazakov, I had a 45, 50-minute chat with Vyacheslav, is it pronounced Fetisov or Fetisov?
Yeah, Fetisov, yeah.
Fetisov. And he started in on about, when I came to America, all these individuals playing for themselves. He says, you got to play as a team. And that Russian mindset of, hey, we got to play as a team, not individuals trying to show off. And I've seen that same attitude out of like Abdi Aladinov.
Yeah.
I asked him about, hey, tell me how you planned that operation. And instead of like David Petraeus or Ben Hodges who say, well, one day I thought about this, and no, he was giving credit to everybody else but himself.
Yeah.
So that's a critical difference.
Famous Russian five from the legendary Detroit Red Wings under Scotty Bowman. And by God, it was amazing team. Not only a Russian five, American Canadian guys playing there were just outstanding.
Yeah.
And Scotty, he implemented many things in terms of the combination hockey. That is why from 1997, when they, after 40 years, after Gordie Howe, Detroit Red Wings got their Stanley Cup, it was just amazing. And then, of course, tragedies happened with the guys, Fetisov and Konstantinov, but Slava recovered really well, but Konstantinov, sadly, he was damaged beyond, so to speak, recovery. And so after that, 98, 2000, they took number of the Stanley Cups. And of course, they had one of the best captains ever, Steve Yzerman, legendary Steve Yzerman. So it was an amazing team. And that's what, but now, Slava Fetisov, who is in the Ice Hockey Hall of Fame, he's not allowed to come to the United States.
Yeah,
it's just like, really? The guy also played not only for Detroit, he played for the New Jersey Devils, So it's like, wow, that's how we ended up, just unbelievable, But
well, he's sanctioned, and his daughter and grandchild are here in the States, and they have to fly there to see him. He can't come here.
Yeah.
And when you say, well, the only reason they're sanctioning him is because he's part of the government.
Yeah, he was the Minister of Sports, and he supports, obviously, Vladimir Putin. And many people forget that, although not actual, but by rank, by virtue of playing for the what is called the Red Army Club, CSKA, Central Club of the Soviet Army, he had already the military rank just by virtue of being the part of the CSKA. So there are all kinds of things which have been screwed up so badly, some of them beyond repair. But again, as I already stated, United States and Russia are bound to talk to each other. It's just because if they don't talk, it's over for the world, and that's where the Biden administration was getting us near to, this almost this abyss, and when you have these morons like Sullivan or, Blinken and his wife, who's an imbecile, actually, so, and, but now, again, Trump, chaotic, unruly, ungovernable administration, repetition basically of the second of the first term. But I don't know. Evidently, now he is being blamed that he took Russian position. Well, somebody told him, we have nothing. We have nothing to play with. We might as well, you cannot beat them. You might as well join them, And so that is why national security strategy today, which I read, it is extremely heavy, focus heavy on Europe, because obviously the United States identifies Europe as the critical, part of the Western world, but they admit even there that some of it is not going to be European very soon at all. So.
Well, that, as I've I've dealt with this issue and done a lot of thinking about it as far as, the criticism by the likes of Ben Hodges and David
Oh,
Petraeus, which, by the way, did you get a chance yet to watch
no,
Danny Davis's debate with
yeah, I know.
Hodges?
He just obliterated him, and now they asked me to do the Marionov asked me, his team asked me to do the discussion with Ben Hodges. Still no answer. I said, yeah, 1st of December is fine. I would love to do it. I'm pretty sure Ben studied a little bit about me, so I do not expect the confirmation
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, that was like, as
But then he just like stomped on him, it's like.
I told Danny, I said, I'm watching the debate, and I called the Florida Department of Elderly Services to report a senior abuse. You were abusing that old man.
Oh my God. Granted that actually I believe I'm older than him actually. I'm older like I'm certainly older than most US generals which are operating, at least used to operate in Wiesbaden group, and I believe I'm older even than Mark Milley by 1 year or something like that. So, but the point is that, yeah, you look at this, it's just like, good Lord, these people, the guy was in charge of the, European command,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, and didn't know.
Holy moly, my God. And at least Cavoli, well, no matter what they do, there always comes down to, what, well, great, we're just going to beat. It's like Larry Wilkerson. He
Yeah,
was talking to Rick Sanchez and a couple of days ago, and he was like, my son, he said, two of my sons, both, I said, I'm not going to be talking about one of my sons, secret, something. The other is Lieutenant Colonel in U.S. Air Force. And he says, the only thing they hear is that we need to get ready to fight Russia and China and how great they are. And Larry says that I try to disabuse him from what their flag officers basically BSing them.
yeah,
They are propping those guys to die. They don't even understand, And he said, yeah, not very successful because obviously you become senior officer and you suddenly think that you know everything. Well, you don't. And those people, and I try to explain it constantly, there's not a single person in the U.S. Air Force, from the academic institution like U.S. Air Force Academy and or the U.S. Air Force War College and all other things, who has any idea what modern air defense is, and that what modern air defense coupled with the state-of-the-art Air Force is. They have no idea. They don't
yeah,
understand what it is to fight it. They have no clue. And of course, when you look attentively at they have been drinking this Kool-Aid from Kiev for the last 3.5 years.
yeah,
They believe this propaganda. It's
yeah.
unbelievable.
Well, when you get both Rusi, as I wrote
Oh,
about last night, that made the prediction that Russia was not going to make very many significant advances in
yeah.
2025,
I mean,
and Hodges saying, yeah, no, they're not going to take Pokrovsk or Artemisк. It's like, good call, guys. Now,
yeah, they're the professionals. Well, I mean, everything what emanates from UK, I mean, they do not even have proper officer education. 44 weeks in the so-called military academy at Sandhurst, it's not military education. They have the civilian guys and they teach them on the level of the tactical platoon at best and how to operate within the company. And they say, oh yeah, we prepared officers. No, you didn't. And you at least in U.S. Army, and when you read the publications such as the Parameters or Joint Force Quarterly, there are a number of people who understand what is going on. They write about it. Guys, we screwed. That it's and but these guys, my God, Chatham House, yeah, MI6, all those, yeah, like, dudes, you will be laughed out of the regiment staff meeting in the morning in Russia as the incompetent nincompoops.
yeah,
They won't allow you to command a freaking company. Forget about what being the chief of staff of the division or some. They do not even understand what they are dealing with, and technologically they are not educated, and then suddenly I did. That's what is coming in my video. Russians love doing comparisons. They pull up the Telegraph from 2022 that Russia is the third great power. It's
yeah,
just losing the war. And 3 days ago, the Telegraph, Putin is in the driving seat, Russia is winning, nothing we can do. Like, hey, what happened?
Yeah.
Why? And you look at these morons, and I'm not talking about this garbage which is infested on YouTube, all those kind of military analysts. None of them have a certain military or intelligence. They don't have any toolkit to, but yet here they are. They come out and say, yeah, we just, so they draw those arrows on the maps and think that they're so good. They're not. I mean, you'll read this like, yeah. And people ask me all the time in private communications, and even not in private communications, in the comments to my videos, they say, Andrei, can you go to this channel and destroy the guy? I said, guys, that's not my business. But you know what? Once in a while, I have, okay, let's talk about this. Yeah, he's moron. He doesn't understand because of that. And now I have the constant communication with, we basically make the also podcast together with Brandon Weikart, who is the editor for national security issues for the national interest. And he was a former staffer. He was a staffer in Congress, and he was with Pentagon liaison. My God, there's so many interesting things which he provided. It's like, oh yeah, man, it's screwed. It's so screwed. It's unbelievable.
The one thing I finally, I finally came to understand, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, that the reason Russia was not moving with, let's call these big movements, particularly in 2023 and up through 2024, is it simply did not have sufficient ground forces yet to be able to both carry out the offensive and then defend the position and continue to carry on offensives. But, because they started with around 300,000 ground forces in February 2022. Well, now it's at like 1.5 million. And with at least 700 to 800,000 deployed in Ukraine.
That's why partial mobilization was declared. But the point is, there is a story to be told about Mr. Lukashenko and Belarus about the Gostomel operation. And that is why the guy, oh God, I don't want to go there. It's like, but the point is, this October, I believe it was the partial mobilization. They needed additional 300,000. They got it pretty fast. And then since then, the volunteers. So that was this overlap, volunteers were beginning to go in and they still didn't have the force enough. This was part of what many people didn't understand. The so-called Wagner was asked to, okay, can you patch up this, Bakhmut, operational direction, help there. They were there only help. Yeah. And of course, this was misrepresented that they, they did the bulk of the fighting, while in reality, so they didn't. And the whole thing was like, I think the issue of the personnel, after it became clear that in April 2022, when Bodger sabotaged on behalf of Biden administration the Istanbul talks, that's when it became clear for Russians that it's going to be NATO. And many people do not understand that prior to those negotiations, or April, even that peacetime army, Russian peacetime army, which came in, as you correctly stated, it was actually around 250,000. It already wiped out the first iteration of the armed forces of Ukraine. Many people didn't understand. And it was the peacetime Russian army. And that's when the whole thing started. And it was clear that after that, all those ideas which have been floated in Istanbul, they were dead, period. And then it was just a matter of how Russia will mobilize itself completely their military industrial base, which happened. And now here we are, Russians, last time, Russian army, I checked, it was 2 days ago, 36 kilometers deep, it's 20 plus miles into Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. In Kharkov, it's, just basically fights in the Sumy is about 25 kilometers. And so the rest, Zaporozhye, we know what is happening right now. Gulay Pole. Everybody like, oh yeah, they're not going to get to Gulay Pole in another month. oops, next day they are like, we're already inside black hole. So it's like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, and there is now a huge movement now in motion. Solovyov, yesterday, no, 2 days ago. And you know Mr. Solovyov. Really.
Yeah.
So he closed my Telegram channel thing, like, oh yeah, Martyanov said this is like, great thing. Obviously, you know my attitude towards him.
Yes,
and I know who I really know who he is. I really do. And then he goes and reads my Telegram channel, obviously, which is a lot. And so, but how he can call me a bad man? How does he? I say, oh, you know what? Oh, screw you. It's just like, so it's, there is emotion now because Russian informational environment also was saturated with garbage and so-called pseudo military analysts, all those people who come up on the federal channels, on the TV and radio, what have you, and start to, again, many of them zero military background, let alone having some serious military or intelligence background. You met one guy of them, who Buzinski, general. Yeah. He graduated Academy of the General Staff, okay? And he served in the General Staff. Okay, the opinion of this man, they are important.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's talking about because he keeps himself up to date.
Yeah.
But when you look at actually the other ones, my friend Vladimir Trukhan, colonel of the...
Right.
He had this meeting through the RBC, which is pro-Western, pro-liberal. Essentially, I don't know why they are not designated yet the foreign agent, because it's like, oh, good Lord. And so he had this communication with the guy, who was former commander of the ground forces of Russia until 2013. Good Lord. And Vladimir was like, I know this former commander, he was fired because he also was suspected in taking bribes. And Shoigu, when he came in, he just threw out this commander, My God, they were repeating the same propaganda, which was, garbage from the so-called, military bloggers and things of this nature. And so that's how it resulted that we have now the clearing of the atmosphere, so to speak, both in the West and even Russian so-called establishment informational environment. And when you look at actually this like clearing, the air is clearing, because, as Ushakov stated, Putin's aide, 2 days ago, and I quote, of course, the situation on the combat on the front lines defines everything. It influences everything, including, it's so obvious. Many people still didn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, they don't, I keep trying to communicate that, that I think Witkoff, Kushner, many around Trump think, oh, this is like negotiating a real estate deal.
Yeah, it's
with the Russians, so, you start with their existing position, but they'll back off from that they're not going to hang on to that. And I say, no, or as they say in Moscow, niet, that the demands with respect to Crimea, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Luhansk, Donetsk, those aren't up for negotiation.
No.
It's either accept it as de jure, or we're going to finish it on the battlefield. There's nothing else to negotiate. And now they're saying, if we have to finish it on the battlefield, and in the process we take Dnipropetrovsk, we take Kharkiv, we take Sumy, we take Poltava, then we're going to give those people a chance to vote if they want to join the Russian Federation or not. And odds are they're going to join. And that's why I maintain before this is over, Russia is going to be in control not only of those territories, but Kyiv and Odessa.
Putin already stated 2 days ago, which sent shockwaves, obviously, after essentially terrorism. And up to so much that even the Romanian special forces blew up those, which are essentially British. British do it. Those private military companies, they do not know how to fight. British, they suck as the army, but they know how to, do terrorism, false flags and things of this nature. They have those, their special boat service, which runs this operation with those, UAVs on the surface UAVs. And so, yeah, they blow the thing, which they only know. They are good at terrorism, pretty much. So up to the point, as I already stated, Romania already kind of begins to blow them up. And of course, Turkey came up, swinging. And the point is, Putin says, yeah, they might lose the access to the sea. But again, you cannot explain to some cretin in London who bought his essentially, they buy their admiral ranks through because they're aristocracy, they pushed out their cretins, they have no proper academic understanding of things. We know how British conducted and planned operation in Kursk. They killed 80,000 of their own troops there on the 159 square miles territory. So the same goes here. And so Putin, once he stated this, so what can Russians do? Those idiots, they still think that Black Sea Fleet is somehow sunk. I don't know. Well, in reality, it's very active.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, I am shocked that, Hodges repeats it, Kemmerk, Petraeus, Keen, that the Russian Black Sea Fleet has been destroyed. And I'm going,
they're idiots. I mean,
when did that happen?
They're incompetence. Again, Petraeus, he's laughable. These people have no real serious military background. Russian Black Sea Fleet is actively involved in everyday situation, both defending their, especially their approaches to the naval bases. They launch calibers practically every day. So and they launch it from submarines, they launch it from the surface ships, and you cannot explain to these guys because they are first. I doubt that either Ben Hodges or Petraeus do not I doubt, I know it for sure. As I already stated, they will be laughed out of the morning briefing at the staff of the regiment or brigade level in Russian armed forces. They will be laughed out as clowns who do not even understand what they're dealing with. It is completely different war. And so, no, Black Sea Fleet is fine, goes to sea. And so if Russians decide to blockade, they will. Obviously, they will already will make sure that the rest of any kind of the anti-shipping capability will be destroyed. But after that, that will be it. And again, you don't need to conduct blockade just moving the surface fleet. You have actually, if you look attentively, Black Sea Fleet has its own aviation. Which is actively involved in and it's aviation, which has all kinds of things from MiG-29s to Su-30 SM-2s, which are state-of-the-art, fourth plus generation fighters, which carry all kinds of long-range standoff weapons. So it's just that this time Russians will close at their support, including for the grain deal. Period. They will be sinking anything which comes there. There will be the warning issued that don't cross this line. They will draw the line most likely along the the Zmyny, what is called the island, and anything which comes out or in, it will be sunk. Simple as that. And it could be sunk by both ships, by aircraft of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, and that's when they will show what real naval blockade is. And as a result, so what can I say? If they don't believe that Russian Black Sea Fleet is doing fine, well, they probably skipped their lectures in the whatever strategy and tactics, which they've been taught, and they don't know what they're talking about.
I just did was interviewed by another a Russian who's a friend of Scott Ritter's, who lives in Irkutsk, and he was asking me, he says, "Hey, how have you seen things change in Russia with respect to, the war and attitudes?" And so I said, well, my first trip to Moscow was, 2 years ago today, on the 5th of December. And it was a day later that I was at the meeting that Alistair Crook had pulled together. And
remember photos?
Yeah, and I was there with Pepe Escobar.
And Yeva was also there.
Let's see, I'm not sure he was.
No, Yeva Bartlett.
Oh, yes, yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah, she was there.
I have the photo of you.
Yeah, and we got the, Pepe. I walked up and Pepe's talking to this tall gentleman with, looks a bit like you, and you know, he introduces me to Sergei Rybkov.
Yeah.
And I had no clue that he's the deputy foreign minister.
First deputy foreign minister.
Yeah.
He's the second in
Yeah.
line after Lavrov.
So, but we had pleasant chat, and you know, he lamented the fact that there's nobody to talk to in the United States.
Yeah.
But my point in this is that what Americans don't understand is when you talk special military operation, that means Russia's not mobilized for war.
No.
They've done, you know, a very small mobilization of 320,000. Stas Krapivnik, who lives there now, and I said, "What's the size?" He says, "They could mobilize 10 million if they had to." And I said, "No, that seems out of it." And he says, "No, trust me, there's that many."
Immediate reserve is 2.5 million. It's immediate. That's literally called up tomorrow, and those people will appear on the what is called Voenkomat, military commissariats, and so it's immediate. And then it will take, well, a month or so to prep them, to distribute them into but then of course there's a lot more, and many people do not understand. Monthly, Russia has volunteers alone, 30,000+.
Yeah.
The people do not understand what it means, and this is rotation now, and this is by far the best army in the world right now, especially with the combat experience, which is unmatched. And there is a joke, which is not really a joke, but in Russia, which says they decided to fight advanced military academy attached to one huge military industrial plant. That's what Russia is, you know, especially when you look at Russian military education, what it is, how the content of it is so much ahead of, and academically, it's extremely difficult. And listen, I know you speak to one of those guys, you know, so, and if you look at actually even at my classes, my generation of officers who graduated, Sergei Minyailo, Admiral, he used to be the temporary member of the Russia Security Council. So Admiral, he was a deputy commander of the Black Sea Fleet. Now he runs the Ossetia. So he was also in charge of the Krasnoyarsk Krai after. So, and you have Alexander Turilin, who commanded this carrier battle group of the Kuznetsov. And so you look at those guys, I mean, my gosh, Oleg Golubev, Vice Admiral, first deputy commander of the Northern Fleet, he probably will be commander of the Northern Fleet. So he's graduate of 1986 year, younger than we were. So that's my generation of people, you know. And when you look attentively, it's just like, this is how it happened. I mean, I ended up in the United States as number of actually other guys. There are number of former officers who just migrated all over the world, because in the 90s Russia was essentially, we were in the hot war essentially inside.
It was a nightmare. I mean,
it's a catastrophe, you know. So this is why I am so much always when speaking on the internal politics of the United States, I always want to warn guys that, guys, if it comes down, it's going to be bad. Okay, so let's not go there. Let's do something, you know. But in Washington, you cannot break through them, you know.
Yeah. Basically, you know, that's one of the things when I've done. I think I've talked to 36 different Russians. I mean, members of the Duma, the press, think tanks, and one of the questions I've asked everyone is, you know, where were you in the 1990s? What happened to you and your family? And I mean, it's almost like talking to people about their ancestors who fought in the Great Patriotic War.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, it left that kind of indelible mark on people.
Yeah.
That they go for, they're working for months without pay. They're having to grow vegetables to survive. I mean, it's just
there was a degree of famine in Russia.
Yeah.
People were killed. I know. I caught it all. And again, don't forget, we have been aggravated by the fact that we have been Russians from the broken Soviet Union, and suddenly in Azerbaijan, who are you? It's over, you know. It's just and I'm not going to go into the military you know, counterinsurgency part of it. It was terrifying. And 1990s, by different estimates, as the result of the so-called reforms, between 5 and 8 million Russians died from hungers. There are about 300,000 people they cannot account for who have been actually kidnapped and killed and buried somewhere. That crime, it's just nightmare.
Yeah.
Soviet Union during Great Patriotic War was more orderly, and people had, well, essentially, especially if you were behind the front line, they still felt, safer and, more orderly. This was a catastrophe, national catastrophe.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up in the United States. I mean, you know what? At some point of time, I mean, my family was threatened many times, so and it's a whole other story. And so at some point of time, I said, I had it, it's, and we turned around and we had acquaintance in the United States, and we, at some point of time after 1993, when Yeltsin, blew up the White House, the government in Moscow, and there was the situation. It was like, yep, we get it. It's over. There is no returning to the Soviet Union, and New Russia. I saw who was coming to power. Basically, organized crime groups. That's what it was.
Yeah, and that's what. I asked, with Sergei Karaganov, I said, I don't mean to sound like some sort of spiritual mystic, but when you look at the appointment of Vladimir Putin and then what he's actually done as president over the last 26 years, I said, it's almost like there was divine intervention by God.
It is.
And he said, no, you're absolutely right. And he began telling me his story of, he didn't initially know who Putin was, and I guess he and Putin are about the same age. But I think Vladimir Putin, when the history is written, he's going to go down as a historic figure that outshines Roosevelt, that outshines Churchill.
He's compared to Stalin. He's compared right now to essentially scale of Stalin in terms of saving the country. And but again, the role of NATO gang raping Yugoslavia played a critical role. And there is a video on YouTube, you can find it, when Putin speaking to the Collegium of FSB at that time. He was director, and then he was appointed to prime minister, and he talks to the large audience, 1,000 people or so, and he talks. He's very young there. He says basically the insertion into the power structures have been completed successfully, meaning that like insertion of the intelligence assets, and the whole audience begins to laugh and applaud. Yeltsin. But Putin is an honorable man, and he promised Yeltsin's family, security, and so he never, touched them. He keeps his word. But the point is, most likely what happened, people from Siloviki, which is, of course, military intelligence establishment, they came to Yeltsin and said, you either do this or you will have something, we're going to Ceausescu you,
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. So the guy was, Yeltsin was a low-life, one-cell organism, just despicable garbage or trash of a human being. So, but he understood that at some point of time, he may end up after Yugoslavia. And Yugoslavia was this shock in Russia that everybody understood.
Well,
all bets are off.
Yeah, and you also had the Second Chechen War had started 2 days before Putin was named as prime minister.
Yeah, and but then again, it's just what was happening to Russia in 1990s. It cannot. Yeah, it will require some rethinking the scale of what, especially Soviet literature produced in some after the Civil War ended in 1922. And it produced a number of the outstanding literature and movies, and rethinking, including, of course, Alexei Tolstoy, no relation to Leo Tolstoy, but his famous Road to Calvary. It's outstanding book about, oh God, it's called Хождение по мукам, which is literally walking on the suffering, but it's Road to Calvary, as Jesus Christ have been carrying his cross, and so, and there are a number of things, and when you read attentively at things, homeless children in 1922, after the Civil War ended, homeless children, famine everywhere. I mean, robberies, marauding, and it's just horrifying situation. Well, guess what? 1990s in Russia were about the same.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, one of the guys I interviewed, I don't recall his name off the point. He's actually considered the replacement to Gennady Zyuganov within the
Oh, yeah.
Communist Party, but he was an orphan. I mean, both of his parents died, and and his grandmother was not in a position to care for him, so he was raised in an orphanage.
Mhm.
But and that can be very damaging to children.
I know. My
but-
father was like that.
Yeah, and so, but he came out of that and a man of great accomplishment and a sportsman. And it said something about actually what the Soviet Union, even in the midst, because this was under Soviet authorities, they did provide a stable environment that was,
Yeah.
at least in his case, free of sexual abuse, which
Yeah, it was.
so many times in some of these Western countries, it's just.
Oh no, it's that was unheard of. I mean, I'm pretty sure there were some things which were happening, but it was unheard of, really. In my father, he lost his parents obviously during war, hungry, abandoned. His, Aunt Olga, good Lord, she collected literally the whole clan of the Martyanovs, which were relatives, from 10 children, 10 orphans from and she was a simple woman. She brought them up as much as she could. And my father went to then what is called vocational school, which was essentially foster home, but used to study trade. But eventually he then graduated with and he went and entered, passed very well entrance exams to the at that time very famous Chingiz Dream Baku Polytechnical Institute. He graduated with graduate degree in the satellite communication, no less, in 1960s. So that's how he met my mother. You look at that generation, and then what happened now with a generation which went through the 1990s, especially when they were children.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an indelible mark, as you correctly stated. It's a scar, and nobody wants that anymore, and they will not allow this anymore. And that was the consensus on which everything grew up. And then, of course, it kind of created its own self-sustaining reaction, so to speak. And in the end, by 2000, I had my friend, I was already like 7 years ago in St. Petersburg. We were sitting in this wonderful Suliko, cellar, the Georgian restaurant, and was sitting there eating and drinking wine. And he said, "You know what? By 2008," and he is he is actually friends with old people. I told you, those admirals, and so they are classmates, and we were friends. We grew up together actually as the children. So he was two years older than me, and he told me that in 2008, he said, I was like, we all were like, that's it, country is over. And then he said, like this, like, miracle happened. So how, former communists say this, like, how the hell can you judge that? He said, and then suddenly something just like, it's like the hand which you sleep on it, and it just dies out. You don't have any movement.
Yeah.
But what do? Everybody tries to do, just any kind of the exercise to make the blood flow. And said, once the Georgian war happened, and suddenly people said, we're not gonna take this anymore.
Mm-hmm. By the way, the help people watching this that are not Russian and not come out of or Georgia, when you talk about eating at a Georgian restaurant, and so. I'm fortunate to become friends with Mamuka Pipian.
Oh, good.
And he's got Genets Vale.
Yeah.
And I've eaten there. It's like when they talk about eating at a Georgian restaurant, it's like American Thanksgiving every day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to go away from that table hungry.
No, it's especially if you are hosted.
Yes.
That's it. They're gonna stop you to death, and so that's a typical, Caucasus, welcoming thing. It's for some reason they think that killing you by overfeeding you somehow is the expression of the good feelings towards you.
Oh,
So, but yeah, you come to our house and you're gonna be experiencing the same thing because it's not. This is how you grow up in Russia and especially in Caucasus, So yeah, the house is open and you have to eat. It's like this famous scene from the Naked Gun 3 when Frank gives the George Kennedy, who can come to visit him at home, he gives him cupcakes, and Kennedy said, no, not now, and he looks at him and he eats this cupcake. One of the funniest scenes in the whole damn franchise of the Naked Gun. So, and this is the same thing. It's like they're looking at you. Why are you not eating? Just just stuff yourself to death. Here's more.
Oh my God.
Here's that thing. Oh, take this dish. It's like, you cook you have the battalion of people coming to you. You have
and I found that so here's the restaurateur, Mamuka, and then I went to the house of Stanislav Karpivnik. No, he's an American, but he's married to a Georgian.
Okay.
And there we go.
Yeah,
and then so when Scott Ritter told me that
Scott is George. Scott is married to George.
So it's just it's a funny characteristic, but it is it also it highlighted one of the. It's not that Americans there are Americans who are very generous. But it is sort of it's a Russian thing, the hospitality and the generosity with because you see it when like Putin shows up and he's giving bouquets of flowers to people. It's like if you're going to visit somebody, you better get a gift. And so
present, kind of like you don't go there with empty hands, and you go a bit buy the good wine, good liquor, candy, boxes of fancy candies and things like that. You have to come in, just that's how it was.
Last time I went, I took a bunch of 2025 White House Christmas ornaments. And I gave one to Vera.
Oh God, she sent me the photos. That's so. I saw that Vera posted it on Telegram channel that the friend of the United States, so hopefully she comes and visits, so we'll see,
Yeah. Well, let me get you out of here with one last question in your predictions. Are we at a Clausewitz moment of culmination?
Yeah. Fact is, it's not just culmination. We're already down, as I already stated. It's a long process because we're dealing with the geopolitical reality of the highest order, largest scale. It's global. And so as the result, we have not just countries, but the clusters of the countries and cultures, civilizations. And they obviously move much faster than much slower than we move in our lives. We can do things which immediately. This process takes time. But after 2023, so-called counteroffensive, it was clear it's over. They still can do things. And it's just that finally I have this wonderful, I will send it to you, the caricature that essentially Trump now is, for whatever the reasons, he is doing Putin's bidding because he needs to beat the basically excrement out of the Kiev regime. We now know about the corruption, not that we never knew, we knew it, but now it's official in the open, and all that is all towards the one end, which is basically stated in the national security strategy today, that the expeditious ending of the conflict. Okay, Russians already stated many times, here are the conditions, just go with this and it's going to be it's going to end. If not, we'll continue, so simple as that.
Well, and I'll close with one other mistake I think the Western analysts are making is a lot of them say, well, okay, then the Ukrainians will launch an insurgency and then Russia's really in trouble. And I go, do you not understand what happened between 1999 and 2010 in Chechnya? The Russians have already fought a Western-supplied, Western-backed insurgency. And not only did they defeat it, but the remarkable thing is the
look at
Russians,
Ahmad.
the Russians knew how to heal it. I watched a recent visit by Putin to Chechnya, and it's incredibly moving.
Yeah,
And it's just so, thank you for all you do trying to correct the ignorance in the West. It's a thankless task. No.
Well, I'm trying, as I already stated, my task from the get-go was to do all my best on not allowing United States, which is my country now. It's dear to me. I love it. I suffer when I see what is being done to it, so obvious. My friends in Russia say, and I always tell them, I'm in America. I'm in Russian, obviously. I'm Russian patriot. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of my people, and I'll do everything I can. But America is now, it's our country, it's our home here. So it's not like we can get up and move. So the only thing I could do was to contribute as much as I could to stop the conflict, because it would end up badly for everybody. It would be horrendous. And that's the only, the main impetus for me, basically, the stimulus for me. And what can I say? Maybe it's bearing the fruit, but of course it's bearing the fruit through the Russian armed forces and the Russian military political top, which turned out to be the greatest generation of politicians and military leaders of the century. And as you correctly stated, Putin, Stalin, Peter the Great, it's like, that's about the level.
Well, Brother Martyanov, I thank you. Spasiba.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Пожалуйста, my pleasure. Anytime, man.
Hey, and everybody that have watched this, please hit the like and subscribe button. I know that you will have learned some valuable things. And really, if you're going to read any of Andrei's books, I really recommend the first one. The first one, I mean, they're all good. But the first one is one, I couldn't put it down once I started. And it's Losing Military Supremacy. It's now an 8-year-old book, and it was prophetic. So rarely do you get to meet a prophet, but here's one.
No.
All right.
Don't put pressure on me. Okay, man. Well, hopefully we'll get to Florida at some point of time. So
you got a room waiting for you.
Yeah, I know. And we have also Texas, and that's the whole other story, but it's not that far to Florida from there.
All right. Well, I'm going to sign off here. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and stay tuned.